The iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship returns, this time for the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. We swing on over to Italy to race in front of the Tifosi for what should be an exciting 17 laps of action. Not a high lap count, but boy, is it going to be a quick race. Some of the highest speeds we're going to be seeing all season long in Europe's Temple of Speed. I'm Lorenzo with Lorenzo Bonner beside me in the commentary box, and Tyler Maxson down behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. It's bound to be a fun one here tonight. Lorenzo, qualifying presently underway from this magnificent track nestled over in the Italian forest. One of my personal favorite tracks in all of motorsports. I have a feeling that can be the same to be said for a lot of drivers out there on the iRacing surface.
Yeah, it's one of the favorite tracks because it is very fast and it is highly technical. Especially the Ascari section, not the easiest section by any stretch of a mile, especially on open wheelers. But one thing we can expect, if everything goes okay with the most infamous first chicane, or chicane in racing, which is a variante retifilo, which is turn number 1 as you see right now, if they all get it cleanly right there, we can see a pack race, which is going to be very interesting. Something like we saw at Red Bull Ring.
Don't discount those two Lesbos as well. Lesbos 1 and 2 before the Ascari chicane, and of course after the second chicane, just after Curva Grande. Those are two corners that are obviously very infamous. They look simple on paper. They are anything but when you actually try to put a car around them. Then, of course, the very famous Parabolica, where Charles Leclerc had his massive shunt back in 2020 in the Italian Grand Prix. It'll be an interesting race, to say the very least, out here. You got a lot of very, very famous corners, a lot of places for some thrills, and even more for spills. I would say absolutely the thing to be watching for is going to be for that opening chicane, especially on the opening lap of the race.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting as Greg Seitz does the pass lap, which puts him on pole by 0.15 of a second of Mitchell Ian Green. Yeah, turn 1 is going to be key, how you get that right. The car's going side by side in the braking zone. They're going to go nearly top speed because the big difference over here, there is not a standing start. It is a running start.
14 cars are getting set to show what they can do. Michelin Green goes top of the board to the 144.968, just over 10th and a half faster than Greg Seitz, who still lines up on the front row down in P2. Only 1.65 seconds separate first on back to the 14th position. So it is a tight field out there. Also in the field is, of course, RaceSpotTV's very own Stefan Schlacke, currently qualified just under a second away from Green's time in the number 10 position. Stefan, it's a fun race out there, no doubt. We should be looking into some particular areas on the track. What's your take?
It's all going to be about turn 1, obviously. That chicane, it causes trouble, always does at a race here in the Royal Park of Monza, so that most definitely will be the big talking point, probably at the very start. But, it's also the best passing opportunity, and you never know what you can get. Put somebody a little bit under pressure and they might outbrake themselves, and that obviously does cost them also a lot of time. So it's gonna be a mixed bag for me. I really don't know how this is gonna go, starting from 10th place with the fastest ever lap that I did here in the Pro Mazda 2000. So not really sure what I want to expect from this, but I think top 10 most definitely will be in the bags for me as well.
Couldn't agree with you more. Presently riding on board with Greg Seitz as he dives this car down through the first chicane once more. And of course, besides second qualifying lap, and guess what? That puts him back on top of the timing boards. The 144.924, 44 thousandths of a second faster than Michelin Green. And right at the buzzer too, Lorenzo, just 20 seconds left on the clock.
And 20 seconds left on the clock, so that thing of don't celebrate until the fat lady sings, as Seitz just put up a really magical lap.
Well, qualifying comes to a close here from Monza. We will take ourselves a look now at the starting grid for round number 9 of the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. Greg Seitz out there on the front row with Michelin Green just under half a tenth away in the second position. David Porcelli is going to be in third place with Frank Newen in fourth. Scott McIntyre rounds out fifth place with Marcel Vandenberg rounding out sixth place here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, 7th place goes to Matthew Moorhart with Fabio Berchtold in 8th place. Martin No Notice and our own Stefan Schlaka finish up the top 10. Connor Melia Hunsiga goes to roll 6, and rounding out our 14 car grid will be Ignacio Sarmiento and Jeremy Rogers here at the Italian circuit, no less.
17 laps ahead of us. We're just waiting on some of these drivers to grid on up. Of course, you got yourself your classic guys we expect to see up in front. Greg Seitz, Mitchell and Green among them. Some drivers we don't usually see all too much. I'm noticing Sarmiento making a return to the series. Haven't seen him, I don't believe, in a couple of weeks. Marcel Vandenberg, always a pleasure to have that number 7 machine out there on the facility with his Red Bull Racing livery. So this will be interesting to see what that number 7 machine will be able to make of himself in the middle of the field. Also interesting is going to be Stefan Schlacker. Now, of course, Stefan had an incredibly good race at the Chicago Street Circuit, found himself up several positions, and I believe even secured himself a top 5 finish at the end of that race, saying he is not afraid to necessarily be aggressive, shall we say, coming into turn 1.
If he does that and fail miserably, he knows he's going to be faded to misery and a whole lot of debauchery here at RaceSpot.
If there's anybody we like to make fun of here in the RaceSpot crew, it's our own drivers, as Dylan and I can both tell each other with very, shall we say, much gusto between the two of us. This will be an entertaining race. It looks as though all 14 cars have gridded on up. We just have to wait now for that iRacing pace car, the Porsche 911 GT3 pace car, getting set to rumble away. So we get set to go for 17 laps of racing. It's about half the lap here that these guys have to maneuver before we go racing here at Monza. Starting the pace just before the Ascari chicane. So what do you think, Lorenzo? You got a favorite to win this one?
For once, I don't.
It's one of those...
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it comes down pretty much on how they handle turn 1, how they handle the Variante del Retifilo. If they survive, then we can pick a favorite after that.
I kind of agree with that there. This is one of those tracks where just about everybody has a chance of winning. You have to make sure that you, shall we say, be patient, especially in turn number 1. You have a lot of traffic to work with, so you're going to be able to work your way back up, even if you decide to take a little bit of a step back and sort yourselves out later on down, even in just this opening lap. Coming on through the parabolic, Lorenzo, should be a good one.
Could be a good one. Can't wait to see how they're going to actually handle this rolling start. Not the casual things we like to see in every other categories like Porsche Cup or some other GT cars like or GP cars like the F3. So let's get going for this one.
The iRacing pace car is going to pull down the pit road. Greg Seitz holding up the field slightly. The two Rust Racing teammates getting set to rumble away. Seitz on the loud pedal. We are underway from Monza in front of the Tifosi. Frank Newen slots in line right in front of, right behind David Porcelli. That leaves just the entire field all the way back. Single file coming to the sprint down to turn number 1. Looking out to the left side is Porcelli going to go down the outside of Mitchell and Green into turn number 1. 3 wide just behind him. Couple cars getting sent round. Scott McGinter takes a tangle. One car does go fully spun around. That's Fabio Berchtold, who's now lost the front wing, checking a Martin Arnoldus in the process.
Yeah, I saw someone going from a mile away on the break-ins, and that was Arnoldus, who got caught off guard, I think, right on the exit because Berchtold managed to spun around, and both teammates entangled as they're now going to Curva del Grande and now into the second chicane, into now the two last turns.
So far, still looking green for them in the front. Apart from that minor scrap further down in the field, you just saw the swap for P1011. Oh, and Bernhardt going around at the top end of the screen. The number 13 car getting sent all the way around deep in the field and into the gravel trap at the exit of Lesmo 1. So unfortunate for himself. Here is that battle further down to the field between Sarmiento and Rogers, currently ducking down towards the Ascari chicane. Rogers is going to tuck back in line, decides not to go for it down the inside. The Ascari chicane, one of those chicanes that you really don't want to go side by side through. Going to have that battle for P2 coming up here very, very soon as we take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay. I believe this will be of the incident further in the back there. You see the number 13 getting shunted off and around. Unfortunate for himself, he was side by side with the number 8 machine, but it was a clip from the 10 car. Ooh. Right there, you saw it. Hans Siegert sending him into a spin.
I actually felt that one up to the point that I actually turned on my steering wheel right here in front of me. That I had some reactions right there. But it's gonna be a really good battle as they round out lap number 1, and the number 4 car in green on the inside into turn number 1.
David Porcelli trying to go around the outside line, step at the back end down through the first apex, but gets back on the exit. Michelin Green holds strong. All of this allowing Greg Seitz to start to pull away gradually up in front. Green doing a good job of holding up Porcelli. Trying to back that number 3 off into Frank Newen just in behind. Now it's going to be Green's turn to go on the defensive for this second chicane. I'd be surprised if Porcelli tried to throw one down the inside here. Going to be deep on the brakes, but decides not to go for a spot in that chicane.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see they actually went for the move. You know, of course, you're going to get that major run, but this is, again, a track that it's kind of like draft racing of sorts. It resembles a little bit of what NASCAR does in super speedways. So you have to kind of negotiate if you're going to make the turn on turn number 1 or in 2, kind of so you can kind of emulate what happens in Indianapolis. So if you can lose a whole lot of time in the process if you get it actually wrong, and that's what happened for in Green and Porcelli.
We're taking a look further back at the battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th, which has changed hands. Scott McIntyre's gotten past Marcel Vandenberg, and just in behind, Stefan Schlacke continuing to try to make up spots and go for another top 5 finish consecutively here. Last one was a P4 at the Chicago Street Circuit. Fake it out to the right side. He thought about going into the Parabolica, decided against it. Vandenberg holds the position for the time being. And Scott McIntyre will begin to start to pull away to try to run down the top 4.
Yeah, but that runaway is not going to be the biggest thing to do, because even though you are like maybe a second back, you can actually catch up to the driver, and because the draft over here with these cars are kind of huge. But now McIntyre is going to have to be on the defensive against Vandenberg on the inside.
Vandenberg goes for it, tries to cut in throughout that second apex. Beautiful overtake there from Marcel Vandenberg. Textbook pass from the number 7 machine. Scott McIntyre is going to be just in behind, trying to retake 5th place. And Stefan Schlacke continues to wait in the wings for a mistake for one of these 2 drivers to capitalize on 1 or 2 spots potentially. Faking it out. Oh, is he going to try to lunge here down into the second chicane? He thought about it, but still no going for the number 11 car, but gets a much better run out towards that first Lesmo. Goes over to the right side and will go down the inside of Lesmo 1. And Scott McIntyre has to yield.
Yeah, he yields that overtake. I think the pressure was kind of big for the number 2 car to try to overdrive, but
both Schlacke and McIntyre going real wide and getting loose of the gravel at the exit of the Lesmo 2. That puts McIntyre under 5 for Conor Melia, who's going to take this one around the outside, coming down into the Ascari chicane. McIntyre has to slot back in line. You saw Melia getting the bit squirrely on the brakes, but has managed to get himself a little bit further sorted deeper in the field. So that was a bit of a close call. Nearly saw 2 very good contenders being taken out of the race. Thankfully, though, they managed to stay with it. The battle for the lead has continued to close. Greg Seitz losing time up to Michelin Green and David Porcelli, who are both trying to run him down for the lead.
Yeah, if they were teammates or from the same country, we could have applied the Olympics rules of, synchronized spin into the last mode 2 and give it a 10 over that. But unfortunately, that is not going to happen, as Ian Green is marking his teammate, I think, for the majority of this race, just trying to keep him under his wings and then waiting for the perfect move to make that overtake. Because we know the one thing you really don't want to be in Monza is to be hunted in the final 2 laps.
Michelin Green definitely playing defensive here for the Rust Racing crew. David Porcelli waiting in the wings, see if he can maybe capitalize. He's going to have to get past Michelin Green first. Look at how tight your top 3 are down into that second chicane on the exit of Lesmo 1. Seitz pulls a little further ahead. You saw Porcelli back off a little bit, deciding he was getting a bit close for comfort. Michelin Green, though, is going to be working big time to try to catch it up.
Got a little bit of a catch-up, but then again, these cars have so much draft. Again, it's interesting. You're like half a second away, and then in the blink of an eye, you are about 0.2 of a second, 1/10 of a second within overtaking position out of the driver. That you kind of have to negotiate how you go around these corners. And this track is so fast, it is not the easiest one to drive, because if you put the car in the wrong place, it bottoms out, and it's hard to catch the car. So you have to be patient on making those moves.
Stefan just losing out on the position up to Melia, and in fact one as well to Scott McIntyre. Had a bit of an off-track excursion through the Ascari chicane, one of the more terrifying corners to lose the car in, as there's not a lot of runoff room for you to work with at all, especially with the high-speed nature of that chicane. Good news is, no damage appears to be on that number 11 machine. He'll be able to try to reel Melia and McIntyre again down this front straightaway. You reckon he can maybe make a spot up on Melia coming down to the turn 1?
Don't think so.
Oh, up for the lead! Michelin Green takes the lead and then goes wide through turn 1. Gonna have to sacrifice the lead surely back to Greg Seitz. Porcelli might go through as well for second place. A drama starting to kick off for the Rust Racing crew.
Yeah, drama going for the Rust crew right there, and unfortunately, Ian went for the move, just couldn't capitalize, and now Porcelli moves it up, and now is in the hunting position of Ian Green's teammate of Greg Seitz.
So Porcelli going to try to run down Greg Seitz now. He doesn't have his teammate, Michelin Green, to help him out this time. So Porcelli is free to race as hard as he possibly can to try to retake that race lead. We're taking it for the first time all race long. He so far has been kind of stuck in third place and not been able to go a whole lot thanks to Green. But now, thanks to Michelin Green's mistake, he might have a shot to go for that lead.
As we look on the replay, what happened right there as you see Ian Green capitalizing the deal on the front straight. The problem is braking zones, and braking zone over here is so easy to make a mistake that Ian Green did the right thing right there. You know, just let the car go straight, kind of cut the corner. You're going to get right about 2 seconds of a slowdown right there. And you can see the aggressive entry into the Parabolica from Greg Seitz going to the AstroTurf and try to maximize the run.
There you see Stefan Schlacka going down the inside of Scott McIntyre on the entrance of the Parabolica. Got past Connor Melia just one corner prior. So Stefan Schlacka retakes the position. Up for the lead, though. The battle is on. Porcelli to the outside. Greg Seitz trying to fight this one down the inside of the run down to turn number 1. Seitz is going to yield on the inside line. Maybe not quite. Porcelli still has work to do. Gonna have to take a tighter outside line through turn 1. And that's going to allow Greg Seitz to get the run back.
Yeah, he got the run back, but Porcelli tried to shut the line on the inside of Seitz to not allow him to get the run. They're all tucked in once again, and let's see who's going to go for the move this time around because they're very close to one another.
Porcelli tried to fight him off around the outside line. Nothing doing, though. Greg Seitz holds on to the race lead for now after retaking it, after losing it in the run down to turn number 1. Easily takes it back through Curva Grande and out through the second chicane as well. So battles are heating up all over the track. You got, I think, your battle up for the first place over on the left side of your screen. Then you got the battle for 6th over on the right side of the screen at the moment. This is between Stefan Schlacka, Scott McIntyre, and Connor Melia, with Jeremy Rogers headed up a trade of his own between 9th, 10th, and 11th, just in behind.
Yeah, and it's interesting as I'm listening on the radio that McIntyre might be running a little bit less downforce. That's why he might be struggling in some of the corners, but he's being able to catch up a little bit quicker than Schlacker and also Melia. So it's interesting this setup of the cars. You know, you can find some very weird compromises, and it's one of those few tracks that kind of allow you to play with the low downforce setup to try to maximize your efficiency, as we're going to open up lap number 7.
Check it out. Porcelli's run down Seitz again. Moving to the left side. This didn't work for him the last time by. Seitz was able to get him back. Porcelli a little deeper on the brakes. Carries more speed through the first part, but Seitz is still going to have the advantage over on the exit.
And with that scuffle, the problem is it's not only a 3-car battle right now, it is a 4-car battle because Nguyen is not far behind. So one more battle, I think that brings Frank into the fray once again, and the thing they really don't want is a 4-car added up to the mix.
Oh, Porcelli trying to go down the inside of that second chicane. I think tried to show his hand and scare Greg Seitz out. Didn't quite work out for him. Michelin Green's turn to apply the pressure. Moving out to the right side, letting Porcelli know, hey, I'm here. That's his teammate right in behind him. He cannot afford to let his guard down for even a second. Porcelli's got to make sure that he can stay on target here so he can remain on the offensive here against Greg Seitz. The one thing he does not need right now is to play defensive with Mitchell and Green. As soon as he starts doing that, Seitz might be able to get himself a big enough gap that he can run away with the lead. And
plus, they cannot lose, again, they cannot lose time. Their last lap was a 46 mids, like 46 5 and 6s. Nguyen's lap was a 46 flat, nearly. So, again, that calls to the aspect of, you know, fight hard, but fight fair, but at the same time, use your brain and administer the advantage gap that you probably have on your opponent, because the way this is going, we are going maybe to a photo finish or something of their nature, as we are still about 10 laps left, but this is how it is shaping out to be.
Michelin Green moves over to the left for Porcelli. Has a chance. Porcelli's looking for the inside. Going to go down the inside. 3 wide almost for the race lead. Big Green runs into the runoff grass. That was never going to work. Porcelli goes through the styrofoam barriers, and that's going to allow Greg Seitz to take the lead. Michelin Green gets through. Terrifying moment, though, I think, for Greg Seitz, who nearly got taken out of the race by Porcelli as he went too deep into turn 1.
That is a legit brown moment right there. You can see Seitz taking the car at the last possible. All right, let's call into some speed running strats. At the last possible frame, you can see it right there as Porcelli went for the move. Then Seitz had to back down, and the cone just following the driver casually right there.
That leaves the rest of the racing teammates running 1-2 out in front. No doubt Green will start to play defensive again, this time against Frank Nguyen. If these two guys and these two teams can work together, they can find themselves able to pull a bit of a gap over Frank Nguyen. Don't discount, though, Porcelli. He might be able to have something left in the tank, potentially, if he gets those front tires cooled down and gets himself sorted up again. Battles are still raging on deeper in the field. Connor and Stefan Schlacka just making a trade for hands of the run down towards the Ascari chicane in the 3-car battle for 6th, with Scott McIntyre leading this train. Just behind, there's Martin Arnoldis in the 12-car, leading his own train of 3 with Jeremy Rogers and Ignacio Sarmiento just behind him.
Yeah, apparently Stefan got prejudiced a little bit right there in the beginning of the lap. That allowed both Melia and McIntyre to overtake your race spot commentator, but it's one of those tricky things. You kind of have to manage lap by lap these gaps, as now we're seeing Ian Green applying the pressure on the teammate one more time.
And side by side further behind, that's Jeremy Rogers against Martin Arnoldis. Arnoldis trying to hold on to 9th place. Rogers trying to cut back at the exit of 1. No dice. Sarmiento tried to potentially have a look as well out through turn 1, but there still was nothing doing. It's so hard to be able to fully secure a position in turn 1. It might look easy, but you can easily get a run if you're on the defensive around the outside of that second apex there in the turn 1 chicane, just because of how easy it is to get a better run. You can carry more speed around the outside line there, giving you the advantage for the very fast Curva Grande sweeper just up ahead of you.
And one of those corners that that gives you the room to be faster. You know, whenever you go into the outside line, you have that rumble strip and a little bit of AstroTurf to use it. That's why you're slightly faster if you're going to the outside line. But the problem is you need to manage the entry. The entry, I think, to that corner is key, and how you transition from the first part of the chicane to the second. That makes the corner very, very difficult, because it is nearly, if not 90-degree turns.
I'm noticing Greg Seitz is kind of dipping 2 wheels over into the AstroTurf just on the left side of the track at the entrance of the Parabolica, and every time he does, there's a bit of a jiggle from that car, and it makes me a little bit nervous whenever he tries to do that. He's trying to get a good run, but it's not going to be enough this time around as they decide to swap hands. Michelin Green takes the lead, and you saw right there, Seitz lifted off and allows Michelin Green to get in line. These two drivers not wanting to fight each other out really until the last lap. They might be swap drafting here, trying to utilize their own momentum to keep passing each other up and build some space over Nguyen and Porcelli just in behind.
Yeah, and the thing is, the one thing I think they really don't want to be doing is fight it out between teammates way too hard, because I think we saw what happens when teammates fight it out, like 5 laps to go in a very frantic and a high attrition race like this. So let's see how they negotiate. Of course, they're two guys with the top 3 of this championship, so every point for them matters.
I mean, it really has been a lot of attrition, though, in this race. You got to keep in mind as well. There's only really been 2-3 crashes so far that have actually been a result of car-to-car contact. Apart from that, it's mostly just been people running wide of their own volition. And that's honestly what you want to see. You want to see more cars, being a little bit more undamaged and able to stake up the pace with each other. It gives us some of the great racing that we're starting to see here. As we once again look back to the battle for what is now 7th and 8th. Scott McIntyre has started to pull away in front in 6th place, leaving Melia to duke it out with Schlacka for 7th.
Yeah, it's interesting. We haven't had many incidents in this race per se because we fully expect Monza to be a catastrophe from lap 1 to the last lap if we are to grab our history of events at the Italian track. But this one has been proving to be very good. I think it is more of a high-speed chess match like we saw at Red Bull Ring, as Sainz now going to go for the move and retake the lead from me and Green. Then maybe I'm going to take some shots right here of what's happened in a few F3 races.
So remember how I was saying that these guys are swap drafting to try to potentially build up a gap towards Frank and behind? It's actually working. A 145.8 last time I first Sainz, a 145.6 for Michelin Green, 146.0 for Frank. So these guys are actually a couple of tenths quicker doing this strategy, so it actually is working out for them.
It is. They're negotiating again. Like I mentioned, it is kind of like Indianapolis whenever you're in the 500 or any race whatsoever in the Indiana track. That if you get the run, you kind of have to negotiate the overtakes so you can save time and still be within the draft of the other driver. As we
oh no, that's Green!
Oh my God!
Michelin Green has spun it. The question is, did he have help from his teammate, or was that all by himself? Sainz doesn't have damage, so I think this might have been a self-inflicted error from the number 4 machine. Coming back on at a dangerous point. That puts him side by side with Sarmiento, Arnoldus, Rogers, and more in that fierce battle, which is now for the 8th position out there on the track. Taking a look at the replay here really quickly. Michelin Green on the outside. Oh, took too much curb and got to the gravel.
I kind of feel for you in Green right now because I've done I think a million times. It is not hard to do, especially if you're under draft, because it is so easy to miscalculate the draft itself going through a medium speed corner like Laszlo and just go way too wide into the curbing.
Sarmiento up in front, trying to get back past Arnoldus. Michelin Green takes it to pit road, and he's pulled it off. Michelin Green is done for the night. So Green will not be finishing this race off. Arnoldus down the inside of Sarmiento into turn 1. Oh, that's way too deep. Yep, there you go, way into the runoff area. You could tell, Lorenzo, as soon as he hit the brakes, there was no way he was making that corner.
Never. He was never going to make that corner properly. And that was a last-minute tuck, so good to see that there was some awareness right there. As we're going to look that on the replay, what happened between Arnoldus and Singer right there.
He didn't even lock up the brakes to try to slow it down. He knew right away he was also going to be too fast. We just kind of let it happen, carried as much speed as he could into the runoff, so we could try to lose as little time as possible and also not burn up the fronts.
And the one thing you really don't want to be doing is burn up those fronts, right? Because you kind of have to demand on the front grip of the grip of the front tires to make it into some of these corners like Laszlo, right? So you cannot overshoot them. It's kind of like drive like a lady, and you got to get some massive grip and massive speed. So this is one of those cars that doesn't allow you to overpush.
It's such a tight section of racetrack, that corner is, that you really cannot afford to abuse it in the slightest. So that mistake has left Jeremy Rogers and Ignacio Sarmiento now to do battle amongst themselves for what is going to now be 9th and 8th on the track. Porcelli and Marcel Vandenberg have just swapped hands for P3 and 4 up the road, with Porcelli saying he's not going to fight Vandenberg too much for it. Sarmiento, though, moves to the left-hand side, allows Rogers to get the position down the inside. This has been interesting to see Jeremy Rogers just being able to take this one easily away from Sarmiento. Is going to try to fight this one the long way around the outside line, potentially going for the over-under, but Rogers gets up there in time to cover.
Yeah, because it is one of those things. Sometimes, whenever you are in these kind of overtakes, you're not going to allow yourself to overdrive. You probably know deep down in your head there's still some laps left, and you can get them back to stay within the draft, because that makes basically your life 50% easier whenever you try to make an overtake. So why risk an unnecessary move or unnecessary placement in a corner like Lesmos for you to lose time and maybe put two cars within contact and get them both out?
Sarmiento's going to have the draft all the way down to that Ascara chicane. We're coming to 4 laps to go, this time by. So time is quickly running out for a lot of these drivers in the field to try to make up these positions if they want to find a way through to the front. Up in front, Stefan Schlacker is also closed in big time to Connor Melia, and has really pressured the gearbox of the number 9 machine. Sticks in line to the run under the Parabolica. I have a feeling Stefan's going to want to take this one easily. Let him get the run out of the Parabolica, because this way he's not going to be able to fight back come turn 1.
And let's see if Stefan is going to go over here. It looks like he's going to go for the move on the inside now of Connor. And Connor already said that if he gets a really good run, he's not going to try to fight it back way too much. So let's see if that's going to happen. Yeah, Connor just lifts off the gas a little bit. Now Stefan moves up to P6.
I think at the moment, Connor Melia is one of those drivers who's just kind of thinking he's in a good position at the moment. He's happy with where he's at. He just wants to kind of come away with this one clean and get some safety rating up for him. So this will be interesting to see if he tries to fight it all for any more positions so far throughout this race. I know Stefan's wanted to go for every spot he can, now up to 6th again, trying to run down Scott McIntyre for 5th. Rogers and Sarmiento are still close. I'm also noticing just up the road, David Porcelli still trying to close up to Vandenberg, but having little success in that run.
Interesting to see how the race for Vandenberg is going after a few scraps in the start of the race, and he had to kind of lift off a little bit and go back within the mid-ish pack of the field all by himself. He manages now to come back, find the stride, and move up to P3 after what happened to Ian Green. So that is really good. I was going to say same thing for Scott McIntyre, because Scott, I know Scott from F3s. He's a very fast driver, very safe. So not usually the best starter. He usually picks up the pace mid-race, and it is very effective. But apparently Stefan has a few words to say about that, because the gap is under a second.
You'll certainly be able to potentially have a look at this one before the race is over. 3 laps to go now for your race leader and everybody else on the lead lap in this field, which so far is everybody save Mitchell Ian Green, the only driver so far to retire from this race. Sarmiento and Rogers swap hands again for 8th and 9th of the run down to turn number 1. Looks like Sarmiento might try to fight back here, but sure enough, Jeremy Rogers easily completes that pass in turn 1. He cuts to the apex before Sarmiento can do anything about it.
And about this battle, and I think one thing we have to bring it up over here, which I kind of didn't realize. Thank you, Joshua Chin, the King of Chins, for that. Is that Porcelli's performance loss in this race has to be attributed with the fact that his front wing is slightly bent on the front right, so that loses performance on the car.
Well, that's because while he did miss, the styrofoam barriers that kind of mark where he needs to turn around, he did clip the cones on the engine. You saw one of those cones being trapped under the vehicle as he was trying to move through. And this does actually give a performance impact now with iRacing's, brand new damage model. And it's a very subtle piece of damage. But at a track like, I'm going to be honest, you probably wouldn't even notice it on most tracks. But at a track like Monza, where even the slightest little bit of downforce can cost you 5-10 miles an hour speed, you notice it really quickly, and that is why David Porcelli has gone from running times which have been solidly kind of mid 146s to kind of a bit more in the 147 range even for the last several laps.
Yeah, and that is going to be hurtful. I don't know if he's going to be able to lose the position to McIntyre because I don't think there is enough laps for McIntyre to get closer and make the overtake. And about that, McIntyre made a mistake on the second chicane and it allows Stefan to come closer and duel it out for P5 right now.
Yeah, had a bit of a moment right as he turned in. Car stepped away from him and managed to get it back. But that has put Stefan Schlacker right on his gearbox with no doubt trying to pressure in the next few corners. As we take a look up to this battle now for 5th place on the track. Stefan's trying to go for his 2nd consecutive top 5 in a row so far. Secured P4 down to Chicago, but I don't think he's going to be able to go for a 4th place today with just 2 laps to go. 5th place, though, certainly possible, especially if McIntyre keeps making mistakes like that.
Yeah, and he's losing ground to Purcelli, so Purcelli doing a really good job. Of course, the car is lighter, so that helps up a little bit Purcelli right there, and McIntyre, I think the tires on the rear are a little bit shot, and that is helping Stefan bringing it closer and closer. I don't know if he's going to make the move here on the entry of Ascari, because he has a run. If he wants to do it, he will do it, and just apply some pressure right there, Nolan.
He's trying to harass McIntyre's mirrors, let him know that he is absolutely there, and it's working because McIntyre is finding himself further and further offline almost every single corner. Now, if I'm Stefan Schlacker, I do not go for this move into the Parabolica. You wait, you set it up for turn 1. Otherwise, you can try to get that run back, but Schlacker's going to think about it. Got alongside for a second, but does decide to back off and maybe wait around to turn number 1. Greg Seitz, final lap on the race. This battle, though, for 5th and 6th still raging on as they cross the stripe.
And now you're going to see Schlacker have a really good run on McIntyre down on the inside here, Nolan. I think our race spot commentator might have this one in the back, but this is going to come down into the braking zone. Not quite now.
McIntyre lifts off, allows Schlacker to get that line on the entry. I think McIntyre might try to set him up before the Parabolica. He wants to lose as little time as possible being offline through these corners. You can also see the battle for 8th and 9th. Rogers and Sarmiento that had gone side by side through turn 1, giving Rogers the position over Sarmiento. So this battle for 5th and 6th still looking to pick on up. You saw McIntyre had the run, decided to back off, though. He's absolutely trying to set Schlacker up for that final corner.
Yeah, but he's made him a little bit of a mistake on the entry of De La Roggia right there. So losing some time, and he kind of loses performance on these low corners where he needs some performance out of the car to try to rotate and accelerate, as we now see. That is, I think, Sarmiento running away from... Sarmiento running away from Rogers, trying to get closer and closer.
They were side by side at the end of that second chicane. Sarmiento tried to get him back, did not really have much success in doing so. Out through Ascari. I have a feeling here that McIntyre has one more chance to try to secure victory, and it will be down into the Parabolica. Greg Seitz out of the final corner. He is going to take an easy win here at Monza after his teammate crashes out. Down the inside, Schlacker goes. McIntyre got him. Schlacker trying to cut back. Something contact. McIntyre gets shoved off track, and that's going to allow Stefan Schlacker to pick up 5th place. McIntyre with not enough time to run him down. The number 2 car has to settle for 6th place.
What a battle as they got really close to one another, and there was some wheel-to-wheel contact. That kind of wheel-to-wheel contact that Stefan had would have been so dangerous as we see the rest of the group finishing, but somehow, some way, both cars stayed on track. That what boggles my mind even more than the battle itself.
Oh my word! I believe just waiting on a couple more drivers, waiting on Morhart, Seeger, and Birchtold to all come across the line. The last driver, Fabio Birchtold, coming around through the Ascari chicane now, but what a drive! I mean, oh my goodness, that was something to say the least.
To put it mildly, right? I don't know what to say. What a battle! But other than that, Seitz with a very resounding win, and I find it hard to name someone than Seitz to be the champion of this season as we look at the results.
Seitz takes victory by 6.8 seconds over Frank Neal with Marcel Vandenberg. rounding out the podium drivers. David Porcelli, after getting some damage after running wide, trying to go for the lead, is going to be going into 4th place, with Stefan Schlacke at the buzzer, picking up 5th. Scott McIntyre settles for 6th, with Conor Melia 7th, Jeremy Rogers 8th, Ignacio Sarmiento in 9th, with Martin Arnoldus rounded out the top 10.
And the rest of the field is going to be Matthew Morhart in 11th, Hans Seger in 12th, Fabio Berthold in 13th, and I think the only driver who hasn't finished this race, Mitchell, Ian Green, and Nolan. That is going to have some possible massive implications in this championship.
It very much could, especially with some of the races we got coming on up next. It's going to be a thrilling end to the season, no doubt. We've only got ourselves, what is it, 3 weeks now? Weeks 10, 11, and 12 yet to round out the season. So the season so far has just absolutely been flying by. And I mean, we take a look at the next week, and we kick it back over to North America, this time to Canada for the circuit João Villeneuve in the Canadian Formula 1 circuit. That should be an entertaining race as well. Also pretty draft heavy, especially in that second half of the lap.
Yeah, it's gonna be real tricky how they're gonna be going through the tight corners of the Circuit João Villeneuve. But for me, I think the race I think it probably might have the biggest participation of maybe all weeks in this is going to be the Nürburgring Nordschleife. I've seen races at the Nürburgring Nordschleife in some streams. It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting race, to say the least. So it's going to be really interesting. But I think the one that divides everybody might be Worldwide Technology Raceway, because it is a high attrition, very close racing in the third quarter, at 3/4 oval of Illinois.
Should be a fun one indeed. Unfortunately, that is going to be about all the time we're going to have for one night from the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship here on RaceSpotTV. I've been Ola Rempel with Lorenzo Bonner beside me in the commentary box, and Tyler Max is doing a great job as always down behind the camera. Stay tuned for more open wheel action of the Apex Formula 3 Championship and the iRacing Formula V Series coming on up in just a few minutes.